And I've already referenced how I think annual giving people are masochists. And just when you think you've written the perfect paper letter, and just when you think you've got the callers all hired and trained just the way we want them to, now all of a sudden the target keeps shifting, which is the prerogative of my constituents. Here's some other headlines that we've seen over the last couple of years. The case of the missing white pages. In the US, there is no directory of cell phone numbers. The cell phone companies don't really want one. The cell phone users don't really want one. So if you're a proud American phone-a-thon manager, you've still got a problem. I got nobody to call. We're running out of people that we can even unleash my phone-a-thon staff on to capably ask for a gift. Now, I've learned that in the UK now, there's this service that you told me about, that you can sort of, in a secretive kind of way, get connected with people via their mobile phones, but they have to agree to it, and we don't actually learn what the mobile phone number is, so I don't know that we've quite perfected that process. But that's a very real challenge. Web payments could surpass checks soon. This is from 3 years ago. That's already happened. And so, if you're in love with your paper mailing that requires somebody to write a paper check and send it back in a return envelope, you've got somebody crashing your party too. That there's an increasing generation of people who don't want to make gifts that way, and you're not matching up with the way that they're living their lives. Here's another article from a couple years ago. Facebook offers students online community. Oh, that sounds interesting. This is Purdue University telling its own students about this thing they might be interested in called Facebook. And this isn't any more than a couple of years old. And if you saw the plenary speaker, it's pretty impressive how that wave has crested over anything. I have a niece in Chicago, where I live, who is now a freshman at a university there. And she knew all of the women in her residence hall before she even set foot on the campus, because they all found each other and connected on Facebook, and finally met when she arrived with all of her stuff for the new semester, but already knew everybody's name and what room they were in and everything else. That's an interesting thing to pay attention to for what we do. Here's an article in Newsweek. See you at reunion or maybe not. They're raising the question, if my graduates stay connected on Facebook from the day they leave campus, then does reunion wind up being less of a motivating thing for American alumni if people are already communicating what I had for breakfast today with all of my friends? Is it necessary for me to physically go to a reunion if I already know everything I need to know about the people that I wanted to know something about? Like the man said in the plenary, this is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. Do we not benefit because my graduates are more connected than any time previously in history with each other? That ought to be useful to me, even though it's going to threaten sort of my classic fundraising model. I did a focus group with Stanford students a couple years ago, had one guy look me straight in the face and say, I can't possibly miss my next Stanford reunion because there won't be another one for 5 years. And I thought he was going to tear up. It was that emotional for him. But that's the sort of cachet that had built up with, I've got to go to my reunion. Well, now all of a sudden, this is a big threat to the old reunion model, but in some ways I think it's an opportunity as well, which is what I want to talk about. Okay, all of which brings me to my guy, Chicago man, Barack Obama, and like we also heard in the plenary session, what was really significant about what he did was really expanding the horizontal base of his donor pyramid. And he had a lot of people, a lot of friends of mine in Chicago who were multiple donors to his campaign. And his people really solved how to connect the dots with the affinity that people had for him as a candidate, the urgency of an election, and motivating people to raise their hand in repetitive ways to continually express their support through gifts to Obama. Two of my friends down the street in Chicago never made more than a $50 gift to his campaign. But lo and behold, when the campaign was over, they had been $2,000 donors to the Obama campaign. That's interesting for what we do and what I want to talk about today. It would be really easy for me to sit here and show 90 minutes of YouTube clips and flash videos, and everybody would be very entertained, and I don't know that we would learn anything. So my challenge to myself was to come up with a list of ways that I think the internet is useful to us in annual giving in ways that we couldn't sort of tap into before the internet came along. And I'm going to walk you through all these bullet points in the rest of this session with examples of what I'm talking about. And this is a list that keeps getting refined every week that I do this session, and so anybody's free to add something to this list. But here's where I am today in terms of what the internet offers us.